More than 250 experts in the traffic signals industry joined together in person to hear a range of papers here in Nottingham. These recordings are brought to you by AGD Systems, COLAS, SRL Traffic Systems, Smart Video and Sensing, Vivacity and Unex Traffic.
Okay, so at the barbecue last night, I was promised by the Yorkshire contingent that as I walked towards the stage, there'd be shouts of Yorkshire, Yorkshire. But you've let me down. You've got another opportunity later for that. So as introduced, my name is James Guilliatt. I'm a Transport Project Manager at the City of York Council. It's a privilege to be here. I've never been to JCT before, and so I get to present it the first time. That's pretty cool. This presentation is on the implementation of Green Light Optimal Speed Advisory, a service in York using Dynniq's CarFlow. See if I can turn the screen off as well. There we go. So firstly, CarFlow has been commissioned under a larger piece of work at York, under the Smart Transport Evolution Programme, otherwise known as STEP. STEP has a number of aims around making York truly ready for connected vehicles, delivering the next generation of transport technology and transport decision making. But I'll come on to some of that a bit later when, unfortunately for you guys, you'll have to listen to me again. GLOSA displays the signal heads in cars we've seen from one of the presentations earlier. So the deployment that we're doing in York is actually going to be a public-facing deployment, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. So essentially, the speed advice is given to the driver. We've opted for cellular comms, so that anybody with a smartphone, regardless of income, they don't have to worry about getting an expensive car with modern technology built into it. You can have an app a bit like you would, let's say, sat-nav or something like that, and it opens it up to more incomes to be able to experience using GLOSA. And also, the reason we wanted to do it publicly was so that ultimately someone sooner or later has to push this out there rather than just doing sort of trials in a controlled environment and start learning real-world things such as how do the public actually perceive using the service? What are the problems in maintaining something like this in the real-world environment? And feeding that back to the project sponsors, so the Department for Transport, feeding it back to other local authorities like yourselves, so that if you're interested in something like this, there's real-world deployment data and learning to be shared there. Also, the SPAT data, all the SPAT data from the York service is going to be published on our open data platform, so the council's platform where all sorts of data are stored. So academia, innovators and such, they can come and get access to it, fiddle around with it and see if there's anything else that they can do with that. Dynniq also have a software development kit, so if anyone wants to plug straight in and receive the live data, then they can do it, in their own apps and such. So we've got an example there of what the Dynniq app looks like in York. On the right-hand side, you've got the three signal heads where it's from a three-lane approach, and down at the bottom there's the speed advice in the white box. I'll not dwell on that too much because I know Nancy's going to explain it. But just to show you some of the other features built in, I'm surprised a question hasn't come up yet already about are people just going to speed to try and get through and that sort of thing. If a driver speeds, the information is taken away from them and the speed limit around us put up on the app there, so that basically, if you're going to speed, we're not going to give you the green information. You're going to be told what the speed limit is. And there's various other safety features and things built in as well. So where are we actually rolling it out? In York, there's a number of key corridors coming into the city, but we've chosen two. The A59 is seen on the left of the map. We've chosen that corridor because it has a mixture of signal control methods. So we've got some mover, we've got some that run planned, some that run local control. So it's a really good test environment to see how it'll work operationally. We do have quite good comms down there as well, so that's not an issue. Whereas the site on the 1079, which is on the other side, that does have slightly more flaky comms, so some different challenges. And also on the whole road where there's sites with extra lanes and things like that. So all the things to consider that the first corridor doesn't have. So there's 22 sites in total, and yeah, I think that's quite a decent challenge considering most of the work done to press has been on sort of individual sites or under really controlled non-public environments. Okay, so how long are we going to be doing this sort of public trial for? Initially for 3 years. This is to allow the adoption curve to sort of play through, allows us to make modifications, allowed us to start providing this feedback to the DFT and other consultants and authorities like yourselves. And if the 2 trial corridors are successful, we'll roll it out across other areas potentially. However, it is quite exciting stuff, and we've been speaking to the councillors and the like about what we're doing. Oh, we want it in the city centre. We want it on all of the lights. But ultimately, when you look at GLOSA and you get condensed traffic, I think it was one of the questions earlier about what methods or how useful is it if you've got cars in front of you and you're getting told to do 40 and you can only do 10. Well, the reality is it's not that useful in that situation. There's not a great deal you can do for that. So city centre sites won't be considered for GLOSA just purely because they're not very practical, they're too close together and that sort of thing. So despite some of the willingness of stakeholders to want to implement it everywhere, I've spoken, no, it's more of a corridor-based thing as far as we're concerned for now. I'll now pass over to Nancy, who will take you through how the GLOSA service actually works.
Thank you, James. Yes, I'm Nancy Bunyan. Thank you. I led the software development for this project. Let's see, make sure I'm standing in the right place. So the software development, we had a bit of a head start because Dynniq already had the flow sense services and the orange box here. I don't know if many people could see that. Existing. That's our CITS distribution and management system in the cloud. Also our cloud-based RISs in the middle. That's the roadside unit software, but running in the cloud. We've already had that running in the cloud as well. Everything on the far left is the equipment and systems that York already had. The Advanced Signal Time Information module is an adapter to use with TMS. That's Dynniq's UTC traffic management system. And we developed that, I suppose we started developing it about 2 years ago. And we demonstrated it at Capri in March of last year. At that time, it was only using like strict fixed time plans with no demand-dependent stages. So the development for this for York, we wanted to include information about demands, stage demands, phase confirms for phases that aren't exactly coincident with stages, and also to process the plan information that's available from TMS. So we can get the plan information when it's running a fixed time plan and know what stage is following the next, because we know what stages are being demanded. Other development was on the CarFlow York app. Now, Dynniq already has a number of other apps. The main one was GreenFlow for trucks that we used to kind of pare down and develop just a GLOSA-only app. GreenFlow for trucks was priority as well. And the other new bit of software was the system management tool that York requested us to provide, which I'll describe in more detail later. So the flow of information from the traffic lights to the phone goes from the lights to the traffic signal controllers. They map the phases to the stages. Stage information, stage changes are told to TMS. TMS tells ASTI, along with stage demands and phase confirms. ASTI works out, using its configuration, the changes to the signal group stages, signal group states, and updates the RIS, which has a signal group model. The RIS then creates the spat and map messages. They feed into FlowSense, and from FlowSense, they can be accessed by CarFlow York or third-party apps using the SDK based on the vehicle's location and heading. And you can also see that ASTI also provides information to York Open Data there. So on the CarFlow York app, what it looks like is if you're nowhere near a GLOSA junction, you'll still get your current speed in miles per hour at the top. If you map to an approach to a GLOSA junction, you'll see the speed limit, the current speed limit, and the signal heads that are relevant to the signal groups that you're approaching. So you'll see the state of those signal heads. That comes from the SPAT messages. The signal heads themselves come from the map messages. There's the indicator showing time to end of the current stage. So for green and for red, you'll see a little bar on the left. If we have, if the traffic lights are running a fixed time plan from TMS. And so you can see how long you've got. The bar represents about 30 seconds. So it's full, you've got at least 30 seconds. You also see the allowed movements at the bottom and the advised speed for certain signal groups. If you don't have an advised speed shown, it's because there's no sensible speed that's provided, or, I mean, in that case. So if we only show an advised speed if it's within a configurable percentage of the speed limit. I think it's normally about 65%. So we wouldn't want to go any further than that. If you wouldn't want to say drive 5 miles an hour to get to a green, because that will really annoy the people behind you. And that little bit at the bottom is just test stuff, so you could ignore that. The system management tool, I just wanted to highlight that as well. It's a way of York being able to visualize what's going on with the system. So in this case, we've looked at a single site, but they could also look at the overall system as seeing all the different sites listed and seeing how available they are. And this kind of highlights the map information and SPAT information. And this particular one, we've got one of the signal groups has been selected, one of the icons on the screen. And so it's highlighted the SPAT information about that signal group. So you could see the current state, the next 4 predicted states. And then for this one, it's got a number of different distances from the stop line where it provides a different advised speed. So that's available for the City of York personnel to see what's going on. Also, any app users driving along, you'll see a little vehicle going along as well, so from the CAM message. And you could click on the vehicle and see how fast the car is going. So that's quite neat. The other thing that the SMT does is that it gives City of York personnel the ability to switch off the service at any site they want, and also to see how available this system is. It's monitoring the flow sense SPAT and map messages to make sure that every site is producing SPAT and map messages. It gives an overall availability and uptime. You've got diagnostics. You can look at the ASTI configuration files and all the ITFs. So we have intersection topology format files for each site, which we've created. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of information there, and it's quite useful. It's been quite fun to work on. So, I don't know if I've got time for this. I'll just show a little video.
Improving air quality is crucial in making our environment safer, cleaner, and healthier places to live. Optimizing the flow of traffic plays a vital role in controlling and reducing emissions, greenhouse gases, and other air pollutants, all of which affect the quality of the air we breathe. Unnecessary start-stop traffic is not only a significant contributor to air pollution, but vehicles repeatedly accelerating and braking in our town and cities increases fuel consumption, wear and tear on both vehicles and roads, causing potholes, and can even be the cause of road traffic collisions when cars stop suddenly. The ability to change or increase physical capacity on road networks isn't a viable option for many towns and cities. However, connected vehicle and roadside signal technology can enable us to improve traffic flow without building more roads. Welcome to CarFlow, City of York Council Greenlight In-Car Speed Advice Service by Dynniq. City of York Council is the first in the UK to trial CarFlow on the outskirts of York city centre. CarFlow communicates the expected behaviour of the signal ahead to road users. Using enhanced in-car information technology, the driver receives live traffic signal information. Cooperative awareness messages communicate where the road user is travelling, their speed and current location, all in real time and completely anonymised. Dynniq's cloud platform processes all of this anonymised data, transmitting back to the driver information about the next set of traffic lights. An advisory speed appears on the driver's in-car device, with indications of time to green and remaining red time. This information gives the driver the best chance of arriving at a green light. CarFlow achieves many benefits both for road users and local authorities. With the reduction of the start-stop traffic, road users can enjoy safer journeys, reduced risk of collision from sudden signal changes, and financial savings through reduced fuel and vehicle maintenance costs. But most importantly, improves the quality of the air we breathe. CarFlow helps local authorities in the fight against climate change without significant changes to infrastructure, delivering healthier, safer communities for all. Search and download the CarFlow app today or visit york.gov.uk/CarFlow.
Okay, well, CarFlow York is available on iOS and Android, and it's only available for early adopters at the moment, but soon to be available widely.
Thank you. So I think it was interesting to hear your comments about the fact that it's best used for corridors, etc. I think that's something that maybe that's a message that a lot of people aren't talking about, so I think that's interesting. So at the moment, this is live. How many users have you got on it?
So at the minute, we're site testing. We would have liked to have had it live by now, but obvious things have happened over the couple of years that have just delayed it slightly. So I think we're looking in like the next sort of month or so. But if anybody wants early access and to come and have a play on some of the sites that we're sat in on, then come and find me. Download the app, we'll get you access to it, and you can have a play. There's the event that Darren mentioned at the National Railway Museum in York. That would be a prime time if anybody happens to be coming up in a car. Obviously, don't want to encourage that. We want sustainable travel. But if anyone happens to be coming up in a vehicle and wants early access, we'll get you access to the app. But yeah, sort of a month's time is what we're looking at, something like that.
Brilliant. Okay. Do we have any questions from the floor? Over on the side.
It's better be nice, Peter.
Right, Peter Outley, JRC, York resident, hasten to add. And so apologies for not doing the Yorkshire cheer out. It's the first thing to get out of the way. So I'm not going to pick on any of the sites. One first question is, indicative arrows, what does that look like in the app for a driver? Because would you just give them the primary phase that they're appropriate? Because how was that displayed? Because I know the signals were just rendered as three aspects.
Yes, well, we still just have it shows three balls.
Yep.
But you'll see just the green arrow go. So we call it a green only signal. So you won't see the red and amber.
Right, okay, perfect. And then second one is, obviously, this works in York. If I wanted to drive into North Yorkshire and they're following this and they have a Unix UTC system, what's the plan for that? In a while, if my journey intersects many UTC systems?
That's a really good question. And there's a working group called Spatula, which is sort of fronted by the DFT and the TTF, trying to get the likes of Dynniq, Siemens, local authorities like ourselves who are early adopters to try and thrash this out and work out what the answer is to that. Because users don't want to have loads of different apps every time they enter a different UTC area and that sort of thing. So the foundations are a bit like getting that asset data that Darren was talking about earlier. The way that we've set up the York GLOSA sites within ITF files and stuff like that, we have used a sort of provisional early national numbering scheme. That may change as we get through that process, but at the minute, there isn't really the answer you're looking for that, well, there's an app that does it all.
Because as I understand it, in the Netherlands, the Rijks, I can't remember, I can't ever pronounce it, so I'm not going to say it. The central government procured a central system which all of the messages are collated into, and that's what it's dispensed from. Do you think DFT should be doing that over here, driving it centrally in that way?
Yes, I think so. Anyone from DFT here, Darren, will probably shoot me for saying that, but I think if the likes of, because there are only a couple of UTC providers realistically in the UK, if they could maybe do all the normal services that they are, but just both, or whoever, point it to that one place that OEMs like, you know, Ford or whoever can then just subscribe from that one place regardless of the UTC provider. There definitely needs to be a centralisation of this stuff. At the minute, we're just not there.
Okay. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Presumably, though, that's something that the SPATS data could be used for, exported to, if somebody was developing a national app, they could access that data anyway.
They could access the SDK.
Yeah, so I suppose that is one way in the interim, that the Dynniq SDK, you can get the live stuff from. If Unix and the others had a similar thing, and that app was able to live within the constraints of multiple software development kits, which is no menial task, then it would be possible. But each system is going to operate slightly differently, and the code's probably going to have all sorts of issues to work out to make them work. But that is an option. Yeah.
Any more questions at all? Oh, we've got a few now. Okay, right. Let's start off over this side.
Dave Hall from WSP. What are you going to do about the signals that aren't connected to a UTC system?
Yeah, good.
Oh, that's a good question.
Get them online, really. Regardless as if we want to do GLOSA or not, the idea is that we want to make everything cooperative. So even if it's not going to be GLOSA, we need to be getting better comms with all of our equipment. And as part of the STEP programme of work, which GLOSA is a part of, and something else I'll speak about later, we have rolled out quite a significant upgrade to our communications infrastructure. It's a little bit easier for York, I suppose, because we're a unitary authority. It's all condensed, but our neighbours in North Yorkshire have got stuff spread out, you know, really far and wide. They don't have the option to just bang a load of fibre down or some wireless links. They've got to think about, you know, ADSL links and other things. So certainly a challenge, I think, more so for the rural authorities and how they're going to perhaps do that. But ultimately, we have to get the connectivity in first. And we're not 100% there with our sites. And yeah, sites which aren't connected ultimately are not going to have GLOSA.
Okay. Actually, just up in the middle there, please.
Hello, Chris Goff from via East Midlands. They look like lovely radial routes into a lovely town centre. Are you not concerned that it might cause pollution in the town centre with this nice flow of traffic?
Yeah, that's a much wider and difficult transport policy question to try and answer, which ultimately is down to our sort of policy decision makers, whether they want to gate traffic, you know, out of the city, or whether you want the, you know, just the journey times to improve and then worry about what happens in the middle. Ultimately, I think one of the main aims, I know there's all the benefits up there about you know, making journey times smoother and things. GLOSA itself, or the version we've got, is not doing any sort of priority, so it's not changing any of our current signal plans. So in this instance, it's not going to make any difference, I don't think, to the overall sort of congestion to the city centre. There's other things we're doing which will, actually. And feel free to hammer me with that question in a minute for the next one, but yeah, we have tools at our disposal now where we can sort of gate traffic further out, but that's up to the policy makers to decide whether they want to disrupt people's journey times for the benefit of maybe keeping the city centre clearer.
Have you got pollution monitors in the town centre that you'll be reviewing?
Yeah, we do, yeah, and we do have some control zones as well, which we need to manage quite carefully. So being mindful of that, not just pulling the lever that makes the the traffic seems to go around better, but pulling the levers that make, okay, what's the effect on the air quality and things like that. So it's a really good question. Ultimately, it's up to the sort of the councillors, and then we'll enact their will as to how they want. But the good thing is we're at a point now where we have started to get levers to pull, and we can do that, whereas before we were quite limited in the vision of what's happening and then actually being able to do anything about it.
Okay, great. Well, if we could thank Nancy and James, that was great.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you.